How's life with you at the minute?
Life's good. Life's good. Can't complain. It's finally
Good.
not raining here, so it's a good thing.
Are you Philadelphia? Is that right?
Like an hour outside of Philadelphia. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, we're in Northern Ireland, so it rains pretty much all the time here as well. So Philly would
That's
feel like
awesome.
home.
Yeah, I bet. It's funny. We actually just went and visited the Pacific Northwest for a week, and it rained the entire time at home. And in the Pacific Northwest, it was completely sunny. And I was like,
Oh,
usually I feel like that's the rainy area of the
yeah.
country. It was so funny. But
Nice. Worked out well.
yeah, yeah, it did.
Um, yeah. Well, I'm so glad to have you on today. I really appreciate your time here. It's really cool to meet you because I've been following what you've been doing for a while, obviously, through your
Oh, thanks.
newsletter on YouTube and all too. So I love what you and Dylan do on YouTube, and then what you've been doing through Growth in Reverse as well. So how are you finding YouTube, by the way? Are you enjoying the process of having a podcast on there and stuff?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely a different medium. Like typically I'm just like in my office writing and like pumping out words by myself and like don't get to talk through these concepts with other people. So like having that feedback loop with Dylan is super nice every week.
Mm,
Um, I don't know.
yeah.
I feel like I just think more deeply about certain topics and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it's been
No,
fun.
it's cool watching you guys bounce off each other and when you're sort of sharing ideas and you're sort of pitching different things and stuff during the episodes. It's always really cool. I love whenever you bring guests on as well, the way you like dig into their stuff as well and you really draw the best out of them. So I definitely always turn up for your YouTube episodes every time you see a new one popping up on my
Oh,
dashboard.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially when we have guests on because I've written deep dives about a lot of these people, and now it's like getting to like, I've already done all of that work. So let's like, people see that and like, let's just dig deeper into like the other stuff. So we don't have to talk about like the specific growth hacks I've already found. It's more of like, hey, how is this working? What are you finding working now? So
Mm,
that's always fun.
brilliant. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
First of all, Chanel, just as we kind of get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. So, where are you at now, and then how did you kind of get to this point in your journey?
Sure. So, like you mentioned, I run Growth in Reverse, which is a newsletter. I started back in December of 2022. So, it's been like 2.5 years. We're sitting at about 40,000 subscribers now.
Wow.
But what I typically do is in the beginning, I was writing a deep dive every single week. So, I'd spend like 30 to 40 hours researching how a creator grew to 50,000 subscribers or more. And that was super fun. And it was unique. People hadn't seen someone like spend that amount of time on a specific article, especially in the newsletter world. It was super weird. But I naturally lean towards like curiosity and like wanting to research how people do things. So I
Mm.
was like, oh, this is interesting. And I actually got started because I found Mario Gabrielli, who writes The Generalist. He's
Mm.
now on Substack again. And he had been making 300K in his first year writing a newsletter. And I was like,
Wow.
no way, that's insane. Like, how? How did you do that? And so I was like, okay. So I started researching. I think on that one, I spent like 50 or 60 hours just digging into how he did it, went through all of his past Twitter threads, like all of the podcast interviews he had done, and just kind of like compiled this deep dive. I think it was like 3,000 words. And I was
Wow.
like, oh man. And I just like put together screenshots and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, well, maybe someone else wants to read this. And so I just kind of hit publish and I was like, maybe I'll start a newsletter and send this out every week.
Mm.
The first issue went out to 4 subscribers. One of those email addresses was my own. So I had a 100% open rate. It was fantastic. Never got that again, but uh, no, that was great. So that's how it kind of got started. And then people started sharing them and they enjoyed it. So I just kept doing it every week.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah. There
I
was
love
no
you.
like grand strategy or anything behind it.
Yeah, no, I love your newsletter. It's great. Like I just consume so much of those, so many of those deep dives because they're so in depth and they're so useful. Particularly for me, a couple of years ago, whenever I was just starting out, with a newsletter, the stuff in that was like so inspiring, and just having those like that breakdown of those steps of how other people got to that point was always like a real kind of goal to kind of aim for in many ways. So seeing you break that down was always awesome. And I think I'm right in saying that one of the first people who subscribed to your newsletter was Jay Clouse, and he shared it for you and stuff like that, and that kind of helped you get a bit of a boost in the beginning. Is
Totally.
that right? Yeah.
Yep. So I was in Jay's community for a long time. He had just started this thing. I'd been following him online. I didn't have like a quote unquote creator business at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to join because I know Jay's good and he's going to put something out that's awesome. So I joined it. So then when I started this, like, I don't even think I'm an introvert naturally. So I didn't tell anyone I was doing this. So I just like changed my Twitter profile to be all about growth in reverse. And then I started commenting on tweets on
Mm.
Twitter. And one of the first ones, Jay actually commented back and then went to my Twitter profile and subscribed. I don't think he knew it at the time, but like I had just put that live. So like he was like one of my, I think he was my first subscriber.
Well,
Um, and so it was just pretty funny because like now he's like, that was your first post. Like, what? It was just so funny, like the way things work out. But
yeah.
I was too nervous to tell anyone what I was doing because I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Like, I don't
Mm.
know. So yeah, he was one of the first ones. And then later in December, like closer to Christmas time, he actually posted about growth in reverse in his newsletter. And that took me probably from like 20 subscribers to like 70. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, I'm going
Nice.
viral. No, but it was just so funny.
Yeah.
That was a huge boost at the time. Like now I'd be like, oh yeah, 50 subscribers is awesome. But like that was insane
Feels
to
huge
me.
in those early days. Yeah,
Huge.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was speaking to Jay actually in the episode before this one. I interviewed him, and just really cool hearing his perspective on stuff on communities and his growth journey too. And he just has such a really systematic but human-centered, human focused way of doing things. I think the way he does stuff is very, very hands-on, and you can tell just by talking to him, that's how he does stuff. And I think you're very similar. Just kind of looking through a bit of your background and stuff about the way you approach people and how you interact with people online. Do you think that having that approach, particularly now in 2025, is really important? Just kind of like having that real human touch with everything that you do.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with the way like automation and AI is like taking over certain aspects of things. I think the more you can lean into just like being human with people, like that's the whole goal at the point. At the end of the day, like that's what's going to still be around, I think, in a few years.
Mm,
And so people remember that kind of stuff. Like even in the early days, I remember I would go through, so I had Spark Loop set up on my account and you can see like where people were coming from the newsletter. So I'd
mm,
be like, oh, two subscribers came from this person. And then I'd like go find the email where they shared my link and I'd reply to the email and be like, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing. And
mm,
it's like, yeah, they only sent two subscribers, but that's a huge deal. Like they took the time to like put my work in their newsletter. And so I always did that in the early days. And I still try to when I see it happening. But
mm.
it was just, I think that really stood out to people of like, oh, this isn't just like a game. Like she actually cares. I
Yeah.
don't know. In the moment, I didn't really think too much about it. I was just saying thank you. But now I'm thinking back of like, oh, that actually did help me a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think people don't expect that anymore. Like someone sent an email response to one of my newsletters, just asking a question or something like that, or just making a comment, and I replied to it like pretty much straight away. And they replied and they were like, "Whoa, I can't believe you actually got back to me. Like I'm really surprised, and it's so cool you replied." And I'm kind of like, well, I'm just like a normal person, like living in Northern Ireland, like replying to an email from somebody else. It's not a big deal, but to them.
Totally.
Yeah, to them, it's someone who has a bigger following, and they're surprised to hear back because they're usually not. It doesn't usually happen. So, yeah, I think that human touch is so important now, and it's going to be more important as time goes on, I think, as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you now as well about branding. So, something I'm really focused on at the minute is how writers and creators brand themselves. Is that something you consciously do with yourself in any capacity? Have you sort of set out to say, I'm the kind of growth in reverse person, or do you just kind of do your own thing and just whatever happens, happens?
I would love to say it's really
Strategic.
strategized, strategic, but it is not as much. I
Mm,
think in terms of like design and branding, yes, definitely. Like I am definitely a huge fan of like even looking at your stuff, like you have the green as the upgrade button, and like so many people just skip those little things, and I'm like
mm,
that really stands out, especially on a place like Substack where you can't really do too much.
mm,
The things that you can do to personalize and like brand your stuff so that people know it's you, I think is like a huge
mm.
piece. Like it's something so small, but it's such a big point of like like differentiation, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
as
al-
far as like maybe, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I always associate like orange with you, and then like as like maybe like a dark gray because you always kind of use those colors in your on your website and in your posts and stuff like that. So anytime I see those colors, maybe aside from Substack, I'd automatically associate it with you as well, and with growth in reverse. So I don't know if that's like a conscious thing or not, but it's definitely worked to me anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely a conscious thing.
Mm,
But as far as like me being the newsletter growth person, like again, I started this just being curious. So like
Mm,
I started writing these things and then over time, like I'm learning a bunch of stuff about newsletter growth. So naturally, like people started asking me questions about it. But
mm.
when people call me like a newsletter expert, I'm like, please don't. Like, no, it feels so weird because like
Yeah,
I just started writing these posts and it just kind of like I fell into this, if you will. But
yeah.
yeah, so there's always so much to learn. I'm always like going into things with a curiosity mindset. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's such a great place to be as well because you aren't going in there saying that you're the expert and you know everything. You're just literally examining something and then just sharing what you find with other people, which I think is just is so much more effective than just trying to be like a guru and saying this is how you do stuff. And people are gonna obviously trust you more then because you're just sharing what you find. So, and that's why obviously I came across your stuff and then decided to follow you and consume everything you guys put out now, which is great.
thank
I
you.
wanted to ask as well, Chanel, just about growth, because obviously you've been studying this stuff for years now, and it's too much to say like what are like the things anybody can do to grow in general in terms of newsletters. But if there is one thing people could do now, someone who's got like a small following and they're just wanting to grow their audience a little bit bigger, taking like one step at a time, and what is something you think that someone like that could do at the minute?
I would say the overarching thing is like build relationships, but the
Mm,
more tactical thing is go on someone's Substack notes, start commenting, engage with people, like put yourself out there to a place where like people find you.
mm,
Like I mentioned that Twitter thread where I got those first 3 subscribers. Like that comment that I had was not about newsletter growth. It was just me being human. And then people click through and they saw what I did and they're like, that's interesting,
mm,
subscribe. So it's just a matter of like, people aren't just going to stumble across your work. Like you have to actually put yourself out there. Yes, you should be posting on notes, but I really think the key to growth is probably engaging on notes and like having something interesting to say or like just
mm,
support other folks on the internet. I think is like the most tactical, straightforward way to get subscribers.
mm.
Um, I actually really enjoy Substack Notes right now because it reminds me of Twitter back in
The way it used to be.
2022, where it had like the review link where you could automatically subscribe to a newsletter.
Mm,
That's how Substack feels to me. And I'm like, this is huge right now. Like, I need to be spending more time there.
mm.
But I think that's such a good strategy of just like make sure your whole profile is branded around what you're doing, what you're writing about, and then go engage with people.
Yeah. How do you balance up so talking about the professional side of things in terms of growth and that sort of thing with the personal side of your life in terms of what you share online? I'm very interested in this in terms of how writers brand themselves. I'm going to keep mentioning branding throughout this conversation, I'm sure. But how do you kind of balance that up between what you share online about yourself versus the stuff that you've like learned professionally as a creator?
I always lean more towards posting things that relate to what I'm writing about.
Mm,
Like I will not just post a picture of my dog without context. Like maybe that would do well once, but not
mm,
all the time. So I'm always someone who tries to like steer more towards like, okay, my thing is like newsletters, newsletter growth, audience building. I'm going to post about that.
mm,
Maybe it has something to do with my personal life in a way, but it's not the whole meat or like reason I'm posting.
mm,
I think a lot of people struggle with this because they're like, well, I love this baseball team. I'm going to post about how the baseball team won. And I'm like,
mm,
this isn't the place for it. Like, I'm always a fan of just like keeping them kind of separate. You can mix them together in a way, but,
mm.
um, and again,
Yeah.
it's going to depend on what you're writing about, what your brand is essentially. Like, if people know you for that, then go for it. But if not, you probably want to keep them kind of separate.
Keep them separate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's someone online in terms of creators who you kind of see doing things really well right now? Like who do you think is kind of like on the right track massively with the way they approach growth and in terms of the content that they put out there?
This is a good question.
Too many people, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, and like I feel like because there's so many, I like have stopped looking for smaller ones at this moment, and I just
Mm,
came back from vacation, so I'm like away from it. But I would say I'm always a fan of how Jay does things. Like
mm,
he's top of mind right now because we were just talking about him. But and even just like him trying to move over to Substack and like do something different over there, I think is super fascinating.
mm.
Um, I don't know how he puts out that much work in a day with
Yeah.
a baby. Like I don't understand. I'm like, what am I doing wrong here? Um,
And he has two
so he,
dogs as well.
yeah, right. So I feel like he's always got a good balance of like being able to just like try new things, do them well,
Mm,
and be very thoughtful about stuff. Oh, I'm struggling with like another answer though. Um,
It's because
I don't know.
you've studied so many over the years, probably hard to narrow it down, I think.
And I think I'm
But
just at a place where like I was just trying to I spent like the week before vacation like recording a bunch of videos for the Growth Vault that I just launched. And then last week I was not on my computer much at all. So I'm a
mm,
little away from it right now, but
still in vacation mode.
yeah, trying to get back into it.
Yeah. Tell me
Yeah.
about the growth fault then. So what's all that about? How are you easing into that now as well?
Ugh, I'm so excited about this because I've been thinking about this for a long time. Like since I've started, like I will find random email copy or like a different way someone's trying to grow or optimize their newsletter. And I'm like, I want to share this, but I don't know where to share this. And so now I'm starting to like record these quick videos of like, hey, I saw this person doing this really cool thing. Here's a screenshot. Here's a template you can use to like just copy it for yourself.
Mm,
Um, so it's fun things like this one larger newsletter actually sets up just as an example because it's hard to explain until I like tell you what's in them. So like this
mm.
one larger newsletter set up a separate segment of their audience for their sponsorship. So if you click through to say like I'm interested in potentially sponsoring, they tag you and then every month they'll send you a new newsletter with like, hey, we just hit X number of subscribers. Do you want to like get in before the
Oh,
prices are going
okay.
to go up soon? And so
Yeah.
they just like are constantly reminding you of like, and it's just an interesting way to do sponsorships. I feel
Mm,
like a lot of us will get inbound requests to do sponsors and then we just don't do anything with it or we forget
mm.
or like we send them one email and never follow up again. But this brand is actually taking a whole like automated approach in a way of like, hey, we're doing this new thing. You should get in now. Like the prices are going to go up
Mm.
next month. And I thought that was
Nice.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so the other ones are just like different little things you can include in your email. This past week, I actually implemented one of these. So at the bottom of my newsletter now, I give people an option to opt out for a month.
Okay.
So like, especially with my content, like I send long form pieces or very thought provoking things. So sometimes it's too much and people don't want to like read them every week. So I'm like, hey,
Mm.
do you want to like snooze this for 30 days? I'll come
That's
back to
really
you.
clever, actually. Yeah.
So
Mm,
that's
I like
something I
that.
found that I'm starting to implement. So
How do
TBD
you?
on how it goes, but
Yeah, no, I love that idea actually because sometimes stuff can get overwhelming. You want to take a bit of a break from a creator sometimes, but how do you do that? Is that like through like an automation and Kit or something, or what way does that work?
yeah. So if someone clicks through the link in Kit, I'll tag them and then I'll like stop sending them emails for 30 days. So
Oh, okay. Nice.
yeah.
I like that idea, yeah. I might borrow that at some point in future.
Go for it.
I
But
love
so
it.
those are the kinds of things that I'm starting to implement and like share in the growth vault, which is like I'm
Mm.
just excited to have a place like an outlet for all of these. So
Yeah, it's a great idea. Is that like a community kind of situation, the growth vault, or is it just like a something people get access to individually?
yeah, it's just an
Yeah.
individual like DIY type thing.
Okay.
I do have a community that's like a little bit higher ticket than this. This is
Mm.
just like if you want to
Yeah.
like get access to all the cool stuff I'm finding, like that's where you can go.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so
Love it.
it's def
How's your community going so far?
it's good. I'm really
Yeah.
enjoying it. I actually just got off a call with a new member because I do everyone who joins, I set up a quick 20-minute call with them just to say like, hey, thanks for joining. Like, is there anything I can help you with right now?
Mm.
And those just it lights me up because I'm just like I learn about new creators. I'm like finding new people, and then I get to help them in a small way. So
Brilliant.
um,
Love it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's going well. We're doing a lot of like live calls and events. We actually have a regular like Substack call because there are
Cool.
probably 20 to 25 of the members. We only have like 85 people in there right now because it's application only.
Mm.
But so those folks, we jump on a call every month and talk through like what's working, what's not working, and that kind of thing. So
Nice. That's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. I had a really good conversation with Jay about communities, obviously, too, because he's got the lab and he sort of talked through his process and how he's done that. And again, it's very hands-on. It's very like people first and trying to connect people up with other creators and stuff within the community, which is really cool. And I'm in the process of setting up my own community now as well, like sort of external to Substack. So I'm always keen to like glean from the people how they do it and how it's going for them and stuff. But yeah, I totally get what you mean when you say about it lights you up when you talk to somebody, one on one because it really does, and having even like a small cohort, conversation, you see people bouncing off each other in real time and sharing ideas and stuff like that. It is really really encouraging and just does kind of like light a fire under you as a creator, I think. And I think having that space to be able to do that privately and interact with people on a more sort of direct basis is very cool. I love all that.
Yeah.
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 Where do you kind of see all that sort of stuff going for you, Chanel, in the next maybe sort of few years? Do you want to grow a really big community or kind of keep it small and just sort of focus on a smaller number of people?
Yeah, I think the most I would ever want in a community is probably like 300-ish. I don't
Mm,
know. I feel like anything more than that, it just gets a little too hard to like do well.
mm,
Um, like even if we think through, like I know Hampton, Sam Parr's community, they actually have gotten so big they have to break it up into separate groups. So
mm,
like and so that just feels like a lot. I don't
mm,
know. I don't know that I want that. I'd love for it to stay small enough that, everyone can interact with each other and like have meaningful discussions and learn from each other and that kind of thing. So I don't know,
mm.
a large community, it's just a different type of thing, I think.
I
And
think so,
that's
yeah.
kind of what I was trying to solve with the growth vault too, is like I'm sharing all these things in the community too, but like now I'm pulling that out and like being able to give that to folks to like do on their own and they don't have to have that community side of things.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so good because people tend to have like the same questions about stuff and you end up answering the same question like 100 different ways with 100 different people. And if you can create those things that cover those things, that answer those questions directly, even better. And then you can just point people towards it, or just as you've learned stuff yourself, you can just share it with your group, which is awesome. Yeah, I love all that sort of stuff. And like I'm so keen to like grow my own community and work out how to do it in a really, really good way. And the people will walk away from it feeling transformed in some capacity. They'll have learned something new. They'll have created their own connections for collaboration in future and all that sort of stuff. So I think definitely people first, like a people first approach and a community first approach is going to be the way things are going to move more and more for creators in the next few years is my personal take on it anyway. I haven't seen how things are going at the minute. And I think things like Substack might lean into that more as time goes on. I can see them maybe bringing on board like more of a group situation and having more sort of features that kind of lean more into that as well. How have you found Substack? So I know you're kind of sort of using it. I know your newsletter is kind of like more on Kit and things like that, but how are you kind of marrying all that up between Substack and Growth in Reverse?
Yeah. I need to do a better job of it. And I was going to do that like when I got back from vacation, like after the vault was live and that kind of thing. Because I really do enjoy the platform. I think people are much more thoughtful than like a typical social media platform, if you will.
Mm,
So I don't know, I really, really like it. So I want to lean harder into it and kind of do it well. I think right now I've just been like kind of testing the waters and then I jump out and I'm like, oh, I need to really just stick there. And I don't want to like move my newsletter to Substack, but I
mm,
do want to be like engaging there as in like a more human social approach.
mm,
And then maybe even just like publishing my newsletter content there, but not sending it from Substack, if that makes sense.
mm.
So people can still read it, but not have it be sent from both places. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant. So your online presence is kind of really Substack and YouTube for the most part, and then I know you're on things like Blue Sky and stuff and all too. What do you see? So where do you sort of see the general direction of the creator economy kind of going? I always talk about the future because I'm always interested to see what other creators think and stuff like that. But as someone who kind of studies growth in particular, where do you see things kind of moving in the next maybe sort of 5 years for the creator economy?
I would say more of like an omni-channel approach. I think
Mm,
the more that you can move people just from either being a newsletter subscriber or just from like being on one social platform, I think if you can get them on multiple places and like actually have, I don't know, like a community sense, I think that could be interesting.
mm,
I'm definitely email's changing. It's going to change. I don't think that it's going to change drastically, but I think over time it will stop being the same effective email that we see now.
mm.
So I think if you can start building on other platforms, like YouTube is a huge one. I think that is like, if I could figure out how to do YouTube well, I would just like have a separate YouTube channel for newsletter stuff. And maybe I'll do that, but it's a
I think
lot
you're
of
doing, you're,
work.
you're doing pretty well so far, I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. But the podcast is great, but I think even just having like separate videos
Mm,
that aren't podcast specific, I
yeah.
don't know. I still need to figure that out. But I think being on multiple places is going to be a big deal coming like moving forward.
Mm,
Um, I'm actually starting to integrate this in my welcome sequence to like have move people over to different social channels because
mm,
if they unsubscribe, then they still see you on somewhere
Yeah.
else, like
Brilliant.
Instagram
Keep
or
them in your
LinkedIn
orbit
or
sort of thing. Yeah, yeah.
totally. And then
Love
maybe
that.
you get them back on the email list eventually, or maybe they just are following you there now. So
Mm, that's a great
I don't
idea.
know.
Yeah.
It's still not a fully fleshed out idea, but we had this guy named Tyler Cook come into the community yesterday, and he was talking about deliverability. And he was saying that one of the things you really should be doing is moving people over like very deliberately to another channel as well.
Mm.
Um, so I agree with him there, and I think I'm going to do that moving forward.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. How do you find, Shell, you mentioned about being an introvert at the start of the conversation, and I am as well, a very introverted person. How do you find that kind of shift from writing to being very visible on YouTube and podcasts and stuff like that? And what advice would you give somebody else who's introverted and maybe wants to do that sort of stuff, but they're maybe a little bit afraid to take that step?
Yeah.
Mm.
I think for me, like if I have like today I have 3 or 4 calls back to back, like including this one. So I'm gonna end up like taking a long walk later and like nobody talk to me. I'm gonna have my headphones in, listening to
I
a
get that.
podcast
I
or
get that
something.
very much.
I will be by myself for at least an hour. But so you have to take those breaks. Like you have to like almost buffer in time. Like I think
Mm,
about this a lot. Like as people schedule calls with me, I'm like, I should really have like 30 minutes before and after just to like do nothing.
mm,
Just so you don't burn yourself out and like you still show up with the same quality. Cause I never want to like not be available or like on, if you will.
mm,
I would say it is hard conceptually to think about it as an introvert of like, oh man, I'm going to start like being visible. Like that feels hard and scary.
mm.
But once you start doing it, I think it's easier than you think it is.
Yeah.
Especially virtually. Like it's not as draining. Maybe it's a little
Mm.
bit more draining. I don't know. I can't really tell, but it feels like easier than it I thought it would be,
Yeah, I
if that makes
agree.
sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know with the buffers as well. Like I've deliberately buffered in time before and after calls with people just to give myself that little bit of a break. And I find if I do even like a couple of calls in a row, I'm just like shattered after it for a couple of hours. I have to just take a real time off and not do anything else because yeah, it's just the life of an introvert, I think.
Yeah, totally.
How did you find? I know that you and Dylan went to the Kit conference recently. Again, just from following you on YouTube, what you've been up to.
Yeah.
How did you find being in that situation where you're with like a lot of people in a space like one to one in real life?
It's
Was it good? Did you find like energized by it, or as an introvert, did you kind of feel like that's a lot?
both.
Yeah.
I would say live events are some of my favorite things to go to. So I will continue to go to the KIT conference because they draw a crowd that's like very thoughtful and like a lot. I would say probably 80% of the people there are introverts. So like we
Mm,
all know what the other one's going through.
mm.
But over time, I've just like prepped myself like that week is going to be like extrovert Chanel. Like sometimes I'll like go to a session and then I'm like, I need to go back to my room for 30 minutes and just sit in silence. And that's okay. Like the FOMO is real. Like you feel like you're missing stuff, but it makes the rest of the experience better.
Mm,
But for those weeks where I'm away, I really just like I push harder than I probably should. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, I really need like days to not do anything.
yeah.
But no, they're so enlightening. Like I just get so much energy from going to events like that.
Mm.
It's scary, it's putting yourself out there, but it really, really does like fill me up in a way.
Yeah, I agree. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. I always feel the way after a coaching session. I'm always like tired but energized, if that makes sense. Like I come away feeling, yeah, excited about it.
Yeah.
I want to quickly ask just about sponsorships because something you've been very good at doing is getting sponsors for newsletters. Since you started. How have you found that? So I think whenever you started out, I think I'm right in saying your first sponsorships were like about $100 or so, and now you maybe charge 10 times that or more. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's a lot more than it was
Yeah.
at the start. How have you kind of scaled from that early $100 to where you're at now? And again, what advice would you give somebody else who wants to maybe get sponsorships for their newsletter?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I actually started sponsorships. This guy named Josh Spector, he was on Jay's podcast. I feel like we need to talk about someone else. Um, he was on Jay's podcast saying that the first time he did a sponsorship, he put 3 links in his newsletter and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing sponsorships. Click one of the options below to let me know like how you feel about them. The first one was yes, I would be okay with seeing sponsorships. The second one was no, I don't want to see sponsorships. And the third one is I would be a potential sponsor.
Mm.
And so I thought that was an interesting way to like dip your toes in just to see if like,
Mm.
because I feel like a lot of us are scared to put sponsors in our newsletter because we're like, people are going to think this is, I'm shady or I'm just trying to like out to make a quick buck. But I
Mm.
think it was like a high majority of people said they would be okay seeing sponsors. I think two people, I had like 1,900 subscribers at this time. Two people said, no, I don't want to see sponsors. And then I had like 15 or 20 people say, like, I would be a potential sponsor.
Mm.
So from there, like, A, it broke the barrier of me feeling weird about having sponsors in my newsletter. B, I had now 15 or 20 leads of people that might want to give me money to put their stuff in my email. And so it was such a good way to like break that mental barrier of like me being scared to do it. And then I
Mm.
had folks who wanted to do it. And because I talked about it, someone actually reached out via Twitter DM and was like, hey, can I sponsor your newsletter?
Nice.
And I was like, cool. And he's like, how much? And I was like, $100. And he was like, okay, great. So that was the first one. It was so like not professional and still like I still do stuff like that.
But it's
But
organic though. It's very, very
it's
organic. Yeah.
totally organic. And I don't think that one was like a great fit for a sponsor, but it was a great way to get started.
Mm.
So now I've just like kept raising prices until people said no. And I'm like, okay, that works. But
Mm.
sometimes I'll do like, if you buy three, it's cheaper or that kind of thing.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know. But now it's still just inbound. I would love to have a better system for doing outbound sponsorships, but it's such like a mental block. Like
Yeah.
spending the time, finding these places, like reaching out to the right person. And I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
I will sometimes, if I see an ad in a newsletter, I'll maybe reach out to that sponsor myself then, because I know that they do sponsor newsletters, so maybe they might sponsor mine as well. And usually you don't hear back for the most part, but yeah, it's it's hard to like to reach out to businesses and brands because they probably get inundated with stuff all the time, and how do you stand out whenever you do that? You can say, oh, I've got this many subscribers and this open rate and whatever else, but it's really hard to like make yourself seem like a good fit, I think, in a way that doesn't feel generic, in that sort of sense. How do
Totally.
you find, if someone came to you and said, I want to, place an ad in one of your newsletters, how do you determine if they're a good fit or not for your audience?
If it's something like I would use myself or
Mm.
have used, that's a good gauge. Sometimes I don't know. Like I've definitely taken on people I shouldn't have, but I feel like that's very few and far between. But you have
Mm.
to kind of just like think about it. Like, am I just taking this money because it's money, or is this actually genuinely going to help the people reading my newsletter?
Mm.
And you always want to go towards the latter. Like, if it's not going to be something your people are potentially going to use, or if you don't trust the people who are creating the product, like stay far away because
Mm.
at the end of the day, what we're building is like an audience of people who trust us. And if you put something in your newsletter that isn't trustworthy, like that, you could easily break that.
Mm.
And it's almost impossible to get back once you break that. So I think you have to think of the long game instead of just like the quick money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. But I think if you know your audience well enough, then you can make good decisions.
Yeah. I don't mean to bring Jay up again, but we talked yesterday about that word trust a lot in the conversation, because he's been talking a lot about it, I think, on Substack, like on notes and things like that. He's talking about trust. How do you nurture trust with an audience just over a newsletter? Like how do you actually go about, again, you talk about you can lose it very easily, but how do you actually build it up over time? How do you get people to trust you and then maybe want to buy a product or join your community or the vault or something like that?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I think it's more about like being human and just like I don't know, because over time, I think I've just given people so much value that they feel like they can trust me because they know I'm not just out to like, hey, read my long piece. And at the end, you're going to have to buy something to like, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
like doing the right thing as a human being. I
Mm.
think sponsors are a big deal. Like if you can keep that out of there for a while, or at least make sure that those sponsors are reputable and that kind of thing. Um, but
Mm.
yeah, it's really just about like doing the right thing. Like don't share links to people who, I don't know, don't have good reputations or like aren't trustworthy themselves. And don't I would say don't try and be like super prescriptive in what you're writing if it's not something that is your profession, if you will.
Mm,
Because otherwise you're just like, I don't know, kind of telling people what to do and it's not based in anything, and that will break trust very easily.
mm,
That's why I'm always a big fan of people taking like the experimental route of like, hey, I'm just trying this thing here. Here's what happened to me. Here's how I saw
mm.
this play out. I think
Yeah,
that can build trust pretty well. Um, I don't
yeah.
know. It's hard to say.
No, I know what you mean. It is hard to define it. I think, and again, I'm really interested to see what Jay says about it over the next while on Substack too. I think I've been asking that question a lot to different people on the podcast about trust as well, because I think it is so important. Because a lot of the time now we don't know if we're talking to a real person or an AI. Sometimes, you don't know who's on the other end of the line. So I think it's so important to nurture that trust and maintain it in any way that we can.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it
uh,
just
y-
takes time, honestly.
yeah,
Like just
yeah,
keep doing what you're doing for a long amount of time and people will start to trust you.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you how do you feel about the like reciprocity idea that you can just keep giving away a lot of stuff, even just stuff for free for a long time, and eventually people will start to like want to support you financially as a creator? How do you feel about that idea?
I think it plays out well most of the time. I think
Mm,
there's also probably a time where like you give too much away. And then like once you do ask for something, people are like, whoa, whoa, what's this?
yeah.
So I think there's a balance. I am definitely someone who leans more on the side of like, don't sell anything for a long time. But now I'm like trying to sell certain things and it's like, what's happening? But people are just like, no, I got all your stuff for free. Thank you.
Yeah.
um, which is fine. There's going to be people who will never buy anyway, so you can't take that personally. But
Mm,
um, yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a challenge. I think giving away more than you ask is key. I just don't know what that exact time frame or like what that looks like for each person.
Yeah. You guys interviewed Tom Orbach, I don't pronounce his second name, recently. Just saw that episode, I think, today. And he recently, like relatively recently, just created a pay tier that turned it on Substack and instantly became a bestseller and got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of paid subs like overnight, which is really cool. Part of me was kind of like, oh, Tom, it's so annoying. I've been trying for so long to build up my pay tier. And he did it overnight. But amazing that he did it, and he did that because he had built up years and years of trust, I think, with his audience, and then maybe there was the reciprocity kind of idea there. So it was interesting to see how that kind of played out for him.
Yeah.
I think as well.
And he
But
never had sponsors either. Like he
yeah,
didn't have
yeah,
paid, he didn't have sponsors, he didn't have anything monetizing his newsletter. So like he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna wait until this month." I'm like, "Tom, just do it. Like you've been waiting so long."
yeah,
Because he's in the community and he was like talking about it and I was like, "I would just do it now. Like why are you waiting so long?" But
yeah.
oh
Man, he's
well.
such a success story in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Chanel, just two more questions, then I'll let you go because we have other stuff to do today. Can you leave our readers, first of all, with your main sort of growth bit of advice? So not a hack, but just like something that you would advise anyone who has a newsletter who's just starting out, if they want to grow in a way that's sustainable and that builds trust over time, what would you advise someone to do?
I would say focus on the content versus your growth at the beginning.
Mm,
I think the content is like the foundational piece of everything, and it's the thing nobody talks about. Everyone's like, "Oh, do this one thing on Substack and you can grow." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like the content is what people stay around for." And that's like the biggest growth hack is retention, like keeping
mm,
people on your email list happy. And so if you can find a good format or um, format for your content. I think that's a big deal. Uh, how you can do that is like really leaning into what you enjoy. Like as nerdy as it might seem, or as weird and off the wall as it might seem, other people will find you if you are able to create content like that. And it just helps other people share. Like I love Pat Flynn from Smart Passive Income has like a Pokemon channel now. And it's like, it's
that's
so
huge.
nerdy, but like it's huge. Like
Yeah.
he has been able to find his people because if I like Pokemon, I'm gonna tell my other friend who does too, like, hey, go see this channel.
Mm.
Whereas if he was just talking about like overall gaming, it's like cool, but
Yes.
like
It's so
what
niche down.
kind of game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like find your thing, your topic, and just kind of lean harder into that and make the content better. I don't know, talk to your small amount of readers in the beginning that you might have, and just like see what they enjoy, but don't listen to their feedback too much because sometimes it can skew things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say focus on the content first.
Brilliant. Perfect. And just last question that I ask everyone on the podcast. If you could leave our readers with one bit of advice about how to write for a living. So someone who wants to make money from their writing online. Again, it's probably very similar to what you've already said, but if there's anything different in terms of that, what would you say about someone who wants to make money writing?
Yeah, I mean, again, focus on the content, but also I think one of the more interesting ways to make money from your writing is actually be in a network of other people. So communicate with others, build relationships, like even if they're giving you feedback on your writing or you're just talking through how hard it is to like do this one thing by yourself.
Hmm.
I think that can be so like instrumental in someone's growth and just being able to stick with it because at the end of the day, like the people who win in this quote unquote game of what we're all doing is like the people who stick around. So if you
Hmm.
can stay around longer than however many people, like you're going to get better, you're going to grow your audience, you're going to get better at writing. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, build relationships and stick with it, I would say.
Brilliant advice. Great way to end. Chanel, thanks so much. It was so good to meet you and talk to you today, and I really appreciate your time and your insights. And again, I love what you're doing in your newsletter and on YouTube as well. So please keep up the good work.
Likewise, thank you, David. And you'll have to help me figure out Substack notes so I can get better over there.
Do my best.
Awesome.
Chanel, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day.
All right, thanks, you too.